My girlfriend Emily and I were driving from Portland to the coast for a weekend getaway. We've done this drive a dozen times, usually sticking to Highway 6, but there was a massive accident that had backed up traffic for miles. Google Maps suggested a faster route that would save us 40 minutes by cutting through the Tillamook State Forest. It started fine. The road was paved, winding through the dense evergreens. But about 20 minutes in, the pavement turned to gravel, then to dirt. The GPS still insisted this was a valid road, so I kept driving. The trees here were ancient and thick, blocking out most of the late afternoon sun. It felt like twilight, even though it was only 4 p.m. "Are you sure this is right?" Emily asked, her voice tight. "GPS says 15 minutes until we hit the 101, I assured her, though I was gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The road narrowed until my SUV was brushing branches on both sides. Then we rounded a sharp bend, and I had to slam on the brakes. A massive tree trunk was lying across the road, completely blocking our path. "Great," I sighed. "We have to backtrack." I shifted into reverse. That's when I saw it in the backup camera. Another tree trunk had been rolled across the road behind us. My blood ran cold. That tree wasn't there 2 minutes ago. Someone had pushed it into place after we passed. "Lock the doors," I whispered. "What?" "Lock the doors, now." Before Emily could react, a rock smashed into the passenger side window. It didn't shatter the glass, but it left a spiderweb crack. I looked into the woods. At first, I saw nothing but ferns and shadows. Then I saw movement. Figures in dark clothing were stepping out from behind the trees. 3 of them. They weren't wearing masks. They just had hoods pulled low. One was holding a tire iron. They didn't run. They walked casually toward the car, knowing we were trapped. "Drive, drive, drive!" Emily screamed. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't go backward or forward. But to the right, there was a steep embankment leading down into a dry creek bed. It was suicide for the car's suspension, but it was better than the alternative. I cranked the wheel hard to the right and floored it. The SUV lurched over the edge. We bounced violently, metal screaming against rocks. I heard the bumper tear off. The tire iron slammed into the rear window, shattering it, but we were already sliding down the slope. We crashed into the creek bed with a sickening thud. The airbags didn't deploy, thank God. I threw the car into 4-wheel drive and gunned it along the rocky bottom of the creek, praying we wouldn't get stuck. I drove like a maniac for a mile over jagged rocks until the creek bed intersected with an old logging trail. We didn't stop until we hit the main highway, shaking and crying. When we reported it to the Tillamook County Sheriff, they told us we were lucky. That particular stretch of forest is known for drifters who trap tourists to rob them, or worse. If I hadn't driven off that cliff, I don't think we would have ever been found. I'm a solo camper. I love the solitude. Last October, I took my camper van up to a dispersed camping site in the Arapahoe National Forest in Colorado. Dispersed camping means no amenities, no bathrooms, and usually no neighbors. Just you and the wilderness. I found a perfect spot near a ridgeline, miles away from the nearest paved road. The first 2 nights were peaceful, but on the 3rd night, a storm rolled in. The wind was howling, shaking the van, and the rain was hammering against the roof like bullets. Around 2:45 a.m., I woke up to a sound that wasn't the wind. It was a rhythmic tap, tap, tap on the back window of the van. I froze in my sleeping bag. I was miles from civilization. No one should be out here in this weather. I grabbed my flashlight and a bear spray canister I kept near my pillow. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. "Park Ranger," a deep voice replied from outside. "Open up, please. We need to check your permit." I hesitated. Real rangers don't usually knock on windows at 3 a.m. during a thunderstorm, unless there's an emergency. And usually they announce themselves with a megaphone or lights first. I looked out the front windshield. It was pitch black. No patrol car lights, no flashlight beams cutting through the rain. "I can show you my permit through the window," I shouted back. "Just shine your light." "Open the door, sir," the voice demanded, losing its polite tone. "I need to inspect the vehicle for contraband." I crawled to the front seat and cracked the curtain just an inch. Lightning flashed, illuminating the figure standing by my back doors. He was wearing a uniform that looked like a ranger's, green pants, tan shirt, but the fit was wrong. The pants were too short, and the shirt was straining at the buttons. And he wasn't wearing a ranger hat. He was wearing a dirty baseball cap. But the thing that made my stomach drop was what he was holding. It wasn't a flashlight or a clipboard. In his right hand, hanging down by his side, was a large, rusty pair of bolt cutters. "I'm calling the police via satellite phone," I lied. I didn't have a satellite phone. "They're on their way." The man didn't flinch. He just raised the bolt cutters and slammed them against the door handle. Clang! He was trying to break the lock. I scrambled into the driver's seat. I had the keys in the ignition, but my hands were shaking so bad I fumbled them. Clang! The handle was giving way. Finally, I turned the key. The engine roared to life. The man didn't move away. He started smashing the back window with the heavy tool. The glass shattered just as I threw the van into drive. I tore through the mud, fishtailing wildly. In the rearview mirror, illuminated by my brake lights, I saw him standing in the middle of the trail. He wasn't chasing me. He was just watching. When I got to the ranger station the next morning, the real rangers told me there were no patrols in that sector last night. They also told me that a maintenance shed had been burglarized 2 days prior. Several uniforms and tools had been stolen. Whoever that was, he was looking for a victim, not a permit. There is a stretch of highway in Nevada on the way to Las Vegas that is completely dead at night. No cell service, no lights, just desert scrub for 100 miles. Naturally, that's where my radiator decided to blow. Steam billowed out from under the hood, and my car sputtered to a halt on the shoulder. It was midnight. I turned on my hazard lights, but the battery was dying fast. I sat there for an hour, sweating in the desert heat, watching the horizon for headlights. Finally, a pickup truck slowed down and pulled over behind me. It was an old, beat-up Ford. A man stepped out, tall, lanky, wearing a cowboy hat. He looked like a local ranch hand. "Car trouble?" he asked, leaning against my window. He had a thick, greasy smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Radiator blew," I said. "Do you have a phone? Mine has no signal." "No signal out here for anyone, son," he chuckled. "But I got a landline at my place, about 10 miles down that dirt road." He pointed into the pitch-black desert. "I can give you a lift." Something about him set off every alarm bell in my head. Maybe it was the way he was leaning too close, or the smell of rot coming from his clothes. "I'll just wait for the highway patrol," I said politely. "Patrol don't come through here till morning," he insisted. He reached for my door handle. "Come on, don't be rude. I'm just trying to help." My door was locked. He tugged on it, his smile fading instantly. "Unlock the door," he said flatly. "I'm fine," I said, showing him the knife I kept in my center console. It was small, but it was all I had. He stared at the knife, then back at me. He laughed, a dry, wheezing sound. "Suit yourself. It gets cold out here." He walked back to his truck, but he didn't leave. He just sat in his truck behind me, turning off his headlights. We sat there in the dark, me in my broken-down car, him in his truck, watching me. 2 hours passed. I was terrified to close my eyes. Then, around 3 a.m., another car approached, a semi-truck. I flashed my high beams frantically. The trucker saw me and blasted his air horn, slowing down. As soon as the semi began to brake, the pickup truck behind me roared to life. He peeled out, doing a U-turn across the highway and speeding off into the darkness in the opposite direction. The trucker stopped and let me use his satellite radio to call a tow truck. While we waited, he walked around my car with a flashlight. "Hey, buddy," the trucker said, his voice grim. "Come look at this." I got out and looked at the back of my car. On the dusty trunk, drawn in the dirt with a finger, were tally marks. 4 vertical lines. And a diagonal line crossing them out. 5. And right underneath, written in the dust, "Almost." The man in the pickup hadn't been waiting for me to change my mind. He was counting down, or maybe keeping score. I don't know what the tally meant, but I know I was supposed to be number 5.